everyone. My name is Swapna Oundhkar. I am a VP Product Management at Kore.ai. I lead the AI for Work stream, specifically focused on the HR, IT, and recruiting domains. In today's session, we will be going specifically through HR and recruiting. There's going to be a separate session for IT, which is specifically focused just on IT, and we'll go through that in the next presentation. So, with that, I'm going to get started. So, since we're talking and focused on recruiting and on HR, I do want to speak about what are some of the problems that the recruiting and HR teams at every organization are facing. These teams support employees across organizations and across geographies, and their main goals are to deliver personalization and efficiencies at every touch point. And really, these are some of the most important yet constrained teams. So, I want to talk a little bit about the modern challenges for talent acquisitions teams that they face today. The first and foremost challenge that we are now seeing teams face are what I call as a ChatGPT challenge. Today, there are a lot of just employees who are in competition for many jobs, and everyone is using ChatGPT. And what that results is for every specific job that is posted, there are too many resumes, but recruiting teams have no way of finding out who are the perfect people or who have the most genuine skills. And with so much overload of resumes, there is an increased workload for recruiters. But at the same time, they are overlooking the best candidates because in that volume, it becomes impossible to find that needle in the haystack. You don't know who's real and who's not. The second type of talent acquisition challenge that we see are with interview bottlenecks. Um, so, one of the more, because everyone is so busy and trying to do more with less, there is always an endless back and forth delays in setting up interviews. In addition, there are unclear questions and slow feedback that disrupt the entire process. And then, obviously, the process of selecting the right candidate drags on because you haven't provided the feedback in time, nor do you have standardized tools to evaluate candidates with less bias. The next challenge that we see talent acquisition teams face are general, hiring struggles because in high volume environments, for example, these hiring delays are causing lost sales and staffing shortages, which are delaying customer service or which are resulting in lost customers. At the same time, there is a real cost in high volume environments when you don't have the right staffing in place. And these industries are really high turnover industries, and that creates a cycle of constant hiring. And obviously, the screening overload that we spoke about in high volume environments is very high because the volume of applicants is really, really very high, and that hinders the selection process. In the HR space, when we are talking about the employee experience, you will see that employees experience a lot of application switching. And this context switching in general happens because any business on average uses 17 standalone work tech solutions. So, to find out which is the right solution for the right task is incredibly tasking for employees. The other thing that employees spend a lot of time on is in searching for the right and accurate information. And the fourth thing is there is a lot of time that employees spend on very routine tasks that can be automated. A consequence of all this is real employee burnout. And that costs a lot, not just to the organization, but there is a lot of turnover and lost productivity that leads to this employee burnout. And this employee burnout, again, as I mentioned before, causes a lot of turnover and lost productivity for the organization itself. So what we have been envisioning, and where the entire organization or industry has obviously been looking at, is how do I use AI to automate these common processes in the recruiting and HR space. So most these are direct stats from SHRM, where they interviewed CHROs, and what are the biggest trends in HR recruiting and AI. And almost all of the CHROs, 69% of them, anticipate that AI agents will be supplementing their workforces, and that AI skill requirements are very relevant for current roles, or that they will significantly improve productivity. So, we at Core have taken a view on what this actually looks like. And we have thought about how can we reimagine this employee journey with AI. So you will see our vision is to bring the employee in every step of the organization, to meet employees where they are in the channel of their choice, whether it is on Slack, whether it is on Teams, whether it is on WhatsApp. The next circle that you'll see there is we envision meeting these employees throughout the entire phase of the employee life cycle. This goes from attracting, screening, and interviewing, to onboarding, to integrating and developing and engaging employees, to the time they transition in and out of the organization. So this entire employee life cycle could cut through different departments of the organization, and where we envision AI is cutting through all the departments of the organization and bringing all these systems together. That's what that end circle is. So basically, we envision where all these systems and processes come together in a single experience. So, with that, we have an offering for work in which we imagine employees to come and do their daily tasks, find answers fast, and also a place for HR administrators to manage AI agents from one secure solution. So, at the heart of our solution are three main components. The first is enterprise search, in which you can connect to different knowledge sources with 100 pre-built connectors. In addition, you are going to have a comprehensive AI marketplace so that you can go live faster. These are pre-built agentic workflows with in domains such as HR, IT, and recruiting. And if those flows don't meet your needs, or if they want to be customized to your specific organization, these agents can be then modified to your organization. Or if you want to build something custom from scratch, you can build these multi step workflow agents and create or advanced autonomous agentic apps. So, what you see here are some examples of what we call as agentic apps. An agentic app is nothing but a module that can help you do many use cases for a specific task. For example, absence management, which takes care of different use cases for example, looking up leave balances, applying for leave, etc. And so you have these agentic apps with HR, IT, and recruiting, which encompass many, many different use cases with pre-built integrations to many common systems of record, such as Workday or Oracle or ServiceNow. So, if we go on further on, so this is an example of an agentic app. This is a complex HR task where, I am saying that I will be on PTO tomorrow. Please reschedule my meetings, and also collect all the tasks that are due tomorrow, summarize them, and email it to Lucy. And this is an example of an agentic app where it can continue doing these tasks in a single flow, bringing all these systems and processes together. So, as I mentioned, we are talking about pre built AI agents that cut across the employee lifecycle. So, this is what I mean for agentic apps across this employee lifecycle. In the middle, you can see is the lifecycle for attract, screen, interview, onboard, integrate an employee, develop an employee, engage an employee, or transition them out of the organization. And we have all these modules in place, which are recruiting, onboarding, HR, IT, and talent. So if you see for recruiting, we have capabilities for these three personas. One is for candidates, where candidates can just look through opportunities that match specifically to their skill set, and they can apply for questions, ask any questions that they have about the organization. In addition, there is an experience for hiring managers and panelists, where for hiring managers and panelists, it can generate interview summaries, it can screen applicants, and deliver actionable insights from interviews. And for recruiters, there is an experience where they can streamline the entire workflow, like creating personalized job description, coordinating interview schedules, and for attracting top candidates. So these are some of the use cases in the realm of recruiting. I just went through a few of them. You can create and manage job descriptions, easily create job descriptions that are connected to your ATS, and then write them back to an ATS, or um, have them modified by the manager or approved by the hiring manager. The second problem that I had mentioned before was about having this huge deluge of resumes. So you can use AI to screen resumes, and you can accelerate that candidate evaluation with intelligent screening based on your specific criteria that you want, so that you can select the best candidates. And again, this also comes with blind screening, so that you don't have biases involved in this process. In addition, you can have an interview co-pilot. For example, you can conduct better interviews with real-time AI assistance that is asking follow-up questions. It is also automating feedback management, so that you are actually focusing on the interview and not really spending time taking notes throughout the initial hiring process. For high volume screening that I was talking about, you could use voice AI to have preliminary interviews and create detailed summaries, as well as instantly search through knowledge bases and best practices through intelligent search capabilities, and then have like very sophisticated analytics and dashboards to measure key metrics such as time to hire, and that can provide actionable insights to you with your recruiting process. In the case of hiring managers, where hiring managers can use this is they can screen resumes, and they can assess the candidate fit for seamless and efficient decision making. They can summarize the candidate reviews, as I was talking about, and have the feedback populated instantly. And for candidates, what they can do is they can look for candidate queries. Basically, they can easily apply, search for roles, and follow up on application status. And they can also ask any kind of inquiries to a chatbot, so that they can get answers to that question immediately versus waiting on a recruiter to answer those. So, going into the realm of HR, we have these capabilities for these three roles. One is for employees, where employees can get instant support for everyday HR requests. They can manage any personal updates, any benefit inquiries, or policy navigation without delays. For managers, they can handle team related HR tasks, which is anything related to time of approvals or organizational updates, or workforce changes. And then for HR, they can govern and look at these pre-built AI agents to manage routine queries, such as the one which I already mentioned, which was for answering questions related to policy documents or anything related to a specific process, or to manage or look at queries related to onboarding, or employee engagement. So these are some of the benefits that you can have with accelerators for HR. You can really reduce the workload on your HR staff. You can improve the employee experience, and the onboarding experience in those specific domains. And actually, you can improve the employee experience through that entire step of the employee journey that we went through earlier. The other So here is an example of onboarding. So for onboarding specifically, the three types of personas that we can support are for employees, where once the employee has now been recruited into the organization and they are now going to be onboarded into the organization, so it can go right from the time of pre-boarding tasks, then on day one and beyond. So on their onboarding tasks on day one, for example, they can ask policy questions or get task lists on what they're expected to do on the first day. On pre-boarding, they can get information related to maybe, let's say, a parking ticket. For managers, they can streamline the onboarding process for managers so that they can order laptops, for example, and ensure that they are set up for success. For on day one, they can have a buddy assigned, for example, and then they can track progress for this new hire along the way. And for HR administrator, they can automate onboarding operations, handle documentation, and deliver a consistent new hire experience at scale. So for HR admins, for example, they can ask how many new hires have been onboarded so far, have they completed all the required documentation that is required on day one. And then going beyond that, how successful is an employee after they have onboarded. So, in addition to, I was going through that employee life cycle. So uh, we covered recruiting, then we covered HR, onboarding, and then this is specific after an employee has been onboarded into an organization. You're going into some talent management activities. So, for example, you could foster employee growth with certain modules that can advance talent growth with personalized learning um, opportunities or personalized learning content, identify any internal opportunities or track progress on development goals. So, for example, there could be an agent for employee engagement or for career development, where an employee can go through specific training that is required. For managers, you can support performance management in the realm of development to gather feedback, highlight skill, or inform performance or promotion or succession decisions. And for HR, you can streamline talent development that can manage review cycles or learning plans or surface insights for strategic workforce planning. So here is a list of agents that can be onboarded in addition into your organization that does some of these tasks and can automate some of these tasks to alleviate the burden on your HR workforce. And again, this cuts through different personas, as we just saw, through employees, through managers, through HR administrators. And so, as we have been going through some of these implementations, where what we have found out is that organizations have different strengths. You must have seen the latest MIT report that has come out, where it's quite controversial, where it's saying that 95% of those AI projects fail. And what we are finding is that they fail because there are some very simple things and processes which some organizations have not followed. Instead of finding a solution to a problem, they have um, gone and taken the solution and then gone and trying to find a problem. Instead of that, what we are seeing is some of the most successful organizations, how they are defining their AI journeys, start with a very clear cut process in place. So rather than layering AI on top of existing workflows, there is an opportunity now to redesign those entire workflows from top to bottom, looking through this human AI collaboration that can scale together. And the idea is not really thinking about AI as replacing humans. It is really, how do I remove friction from processes, and how do I make sure that my process is now redesigned in this new world with AI. And so that means that you have to think about the problem statements. For example, in the case of recruiting, what are my goals that I need to achieve. So if you have a certain process in place and you're thinking that I want to redesign this entire process, that does not just mean like redesigning that entire process. It means rethinking entirely how this work is going to get done. It could also mean rethinking roles and responsibilities to significantly improve the employer experience. In this case, the employee, it can be the manager, or it can be the administrator. And once you have equipped your people and systems to scale this AI responsibly, you need to have the right skills, tools, and guardrails to implement this. So that's why HR has a very important role to play in this new world with HR and with AI agents. And so here is an example of a recruiting corporate hiring journey end to end. We have John Reynolds, who's the hiring manager. We have Lisa, who's a recruiter. We have Mohit, who is a panelist. And we have Jenny, who is a candidate. So here I'm going to walk you through what a sample recruiting journey looks like end to end with AI applied in it. This is one of our products. With AI for recruiting. And this is how we have reimagined the entire experience. But with agentic AI, this entire experience can be custom fit to match your workflows. So with that, I'm going to start. Um, so we have Lisa, who's a recruiter, and she is starting with. She has just gotten a new requisition, and she's starting with updating a job description. So in this case, what she'll do is, she's just going to create a job description in this case, and it is going to get that job description from there is already a job description that is present in the ATS system, and she's gotten that, and she can just use some AI tools to modify this job description so that it fits her needs with the requisition that she's gotten from a hiring manager. So in this case, once she is satisfied with the job description has been sent for approval to the hiring manager. Here, John is a hiring manager and he has gotten this job description that Lisa has just sent. So now John is the one who's looking at this job description. He can simply say, show me all the job descriptions that I need to approve today, and he can just simply ask it, and he will be shown what approvals he needs to do. So in this case, he will get that job description that was just sent, and he can look at it and he can modify the job description as he sees fit. So once he has modified the job description, and the job description has now been posted onto the career website. So now we have Elizabeth, who is a candidate who's come to look for jobs. And she comes to this career website and she sees that there is a chatbot that she can interact with, and she can go ahead and ask it certain questions. She can ask that she's interested in finding certain job opportunities, and she just uploads her resume. Once she uploads her resume, she gets matched to the jobs that she is a good fit for based on her resume. And then what she can do is go through the entire application process once she is matched to a specific job. In this case, you can see she's matched to that IT manager job, which was just posted, and she's a good match, and she can go through that entire application process right from here. In this case, a lot of the data will be filled from her resume, and she can just go through the entire application. You can also ask for certain questions. In this case, I'm asking whether or not you have work authorization or you are allowed to work in the US, and only then they can go ahead and apply to this specific position. So now the applications have been submitted, and the recruiter Lisa has gotten multiple applications for this specific job posting. So now she needs to screen these specific resumes and go ahead and go through the interview scheduling process. So what Lisa does is she can go through this entire, she can just type in screen resumes for the specific role, and then she can get all the resumes that have applied, that have been collected for that specific job posting, with a screening, with candidates screened for her purposes based on parameters which she had defined. So here it's saying, what skills, why is this a good match, and which candidates are good. Now she has decided that she wants to interview certain candidates, and she can create a self-scheduling link with some panel interviews. In this case, this is a panel interview, and she can create a self scheduling interview link for these panel members. Once she sends out the link, the email link goes out to the candidate, and the candidate can self schedule his interview. So once the email has gone, the candidate receives the interview, he or she can confirm a time slot, and then the interview is scheduled and it lands on everybody's calendar for that specific time. So once the interviews are scheduled, then we go on to the next process, which is the actual interview itself. So on the day of the interview, you have someone as the panelist. In this case, Mohit is the panelist, and he is taking this interview. So when he is taking an interview, he is provided with the details of the specific candidate. In this case, this was a panel interview, and they can just record the interview. They are also given certain questions which they can ask based on the candidate's job and the profile, and they can also enter in feedback. It can generate AI interview feedback, or you can upload your own notes for this specific interview. So once the interview has concluded, then and all the feedback has been collected from all interviewers, the recruiter gets a ranking of what actually happened, how many people were interviewed, and which people are the best fit for this roles. So that post briefing feedback becomes a lot easier. So in this case, you'll get a comprehensive report of what actually happened in specific interviews, and how whether or not this candidate was a fit. And in the last step, you have a full ranking of which candidates should be considered for this role. You can use this, or you can generate this list for your post briefing assignment. So that, in a sense, is an example of how the entire recruiting process can be automated. So now let's see an example of onboarding and how you could reimagine the onboarding process. For onboarding, you can see I have three specific personas. One is Mark Thompson, who's a manager. You have Henry Rogers, who's a new employee, and you have Samantha Fox, who's an HR admin. Let's go ahead and see how this works for all these three personas. So here, this is the manager persona, and what he's trying to do is they are automating this IT provisioning for new hire. So basically, he or she wants to order a MacBook for this new hire who is going to be joining. So in this case, he's just saying, which are the, I want a standard configuration for Henry, and I have, I just want to check where this whole onboarding status is. So this person has completed, it's going to show him all his progress for this onboarding process. And then it's also asking whether or not you want to have a 30-day check-in. So that was the manager experience. Now, here is a sample employee experience. Let's say this is the employee's first day. He can simply come in and ask, what does my day look like? And on this, in this, you will be given a specific set of tasks. This is what your day looks like, and this is how you can go ahead and get started. And I'm just asking what training modules I need to complete. In this case, I will get a list of which training modules do I need to complete, and how do I get started with it. So this is an example of the employee experience, and here is an example of a manager experience where the manager this is an example of the HR onboarding experience where the HR is trying to check, I have a huge, you have a lot of people who start onboarding, but here is the checklist, the HR administrator's checklist for onboarding. And here she's inquiring which of my new hires have submitted all the required documents from an onboarding perspective. And then she can schedule reminders if needed by the end of the day to go ahead and remind employees that they have to go ahead and submit documents. So this is a small example of an onboarding process for HR administrators. And then I can also ask further questions on engagement. For example, I can ask how many managers actually engaged with their new hires, how many check-ins were scheduled, or how many weekly progress updates were enabled, and whether any specific, mentoring session schedules. They can also ask or trigger a feedback survey for this onboarding experience so they can check how the onboarding experience for specific employees is going. So, with that, we have completed onboarding as a module, and we can go ahead and check out other demos as well. So, for HR, one of the examples which I want to give in HR, once let's say the employee has completed onboarding, some of the common examples are really within the realm of HR. So, in this case, we are looking at two personas. One is Sarah Lane, who's a marketing analyst, and she just has a lot of questions. And then we have Anita, who's from Bangalore, and she wants to look at policy questions. So in this case, this demo is showing, how an employee based in California, she is asking about questions based on vacation and PTO policy, and she is getting answers based on employee questions related to California. The employee from California can also ask questions in different languages. In this case, she is using Spanish as a language example here, and she's asking the same question in Spanish. Now, the India employee is asking the exact same question, but instead of getting the document that was meant for an employee in California, she is getting the correct document and a correct time of policies for employees in India with a specific, what are the holidays for India. And this is an example of an HR use case. So we have different use cases. The other great use case which we are seeing in the HR space is in terms of agent transfer. So this is what we call as moments that matter, where let's say you have a very sensitive question, especially in the realm of HR, and you don't want it to be answered by a virtual assistant. Then it can actually be transferred to a live agent. A live agent is basically a person in your call center or in your employee service center who is equipped to handle such employees, such sensitive employee questions. In this case, I'm just talking. In this case, I'm showing an example of I want to know the process of promotion. And in this case, if your organization has a specific process, for example, in this case, I'm trying to choose the job code, and I need assistance in getting the right job code. So rather than wasting my time, I am directly transferred to a live agent. In this case, you're seeing the live agent screen, and you got the chat that the employee was asking. So in this case, the agent himself, the human agent, is having an AI assistant that he or she is using to help the employee at the other end of the screen. And this is the interaction between the human agent and the employee, where he's being assisted to find out the right job code for that specific position. And so this entire process is very helpful. So if you have certain specific questions, for the employee, or you have certain processes, then the customer service agent is getting help about that specific process, and then directly assisting the employee in a live chat. So this is the other example of how a live agent transfer works. We have other use cases as well, but these three are kind of some of the main use cases we want to show. So, with that, I want to talk about some specifics of success stories. We have a European bank customer who is a big global financial services firm with more than 40,000 employees. And again, they wanted to modernize their HR operations to meet the growing demands of their global workforce. So they used, AI to transform their HR organization, and the agents were overwhelmed, and they were using this to automate routine support but also escalate complex cases. And there are tens and thousands of monthly HR inquiries, globally. So 94% of their HR queries were fully resolved with AI without a human handoff, and their channels were through Teams, mobile, and also through the employee self-service portal. In another case, we have AMD as our marquee customer. Everyone knows about AMD. It's a global semiconductor leader with 30,000 employees. And again, it has a similar story that I went through, but they focused on scaling HR support with AI. They wanted to maintain that employee experience as their the number of employees grew to 30,000, and their existing HR teams simply could not keep up with the SLAs that are required to handle such a high volume of a workforce. So again, they wanted to scale their support and reduce the cost of handling HR tickets. They have successfully reduced in not just handling the number of tickets that got raised, because a lot of those queries were answered via self-service, but they also had a reduction in cost for handling HR tickets. So you can see they also had a great employee experience with their employee feedback, and they had an 83% reduction in time to handle HR queries. And with that, we come to the end of our session. If you have any further questions, please feel to reach out or reach out to someone from Kore.ai. Thank you.